Now it's time to take a deep dive.
Thank you, Mick.
Thanks,
it is
Mick.
time for a deep dive. We're going to go deep. How deep is your dive, Chris?
How deep is your dive?
This episode or segment of Deep Dive is music consumerism, the evolution of music media. As millennials, mate, we have been through the lot.
Been
right?
through the ringer, you could say.
The ringer.
Music, yeah.
We've had all of it, right? Vinyls, tapes, CDs, MP3s, streaming, back to fucking vinyls.
Yeah.
Full circle.
It's full circle. A bit like fashion.
Could be a perfect circle.
Good.
Speaking of tool before, perfect
There
circle.
you go.
There's a
Good
link.
segue. There is a link.
Anywho, the way we consume music, all of us, has changed dramatically over the decades, and it has. From vinyl records and cassette tapes to CDs, MP3s, streaming platforms, each format has reshaped how we listen to music. Now, millennials, like Chris and
Like
I,
us.
born between 81 and 96, uniquely experienced this full evolution from playing records and tapes in childhood to adopting CDs, MP3s, and ultimately the way the world is now streaming. That makes us, the millennial generation, the first generation to witness the complete shift from analog to digital and from ownership to on-demand access.
That's
So when we say that,
that's a
what
good
I mean,
point. Yeah.
like physical stuff to
Yeah.
digital fake stuff.
Yeah. You actually used to own music. Now you'd physically own it. Now
Yeah,
it's
you
out
just-
there in the ether doing whatever.
Some
it
people
does.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like having something physical. So talking of something physical, not Olivia Newton-John here, we're talking about vinyl records. So the beginning of recorded music. So vinyl records invented by Emily Berliner in 1887. 1887, just a few years ago.
A while ago.
Replaced earlier cylinder formats. In 1948, Columbia introduced a 12-inch LP, that's the 33.5 RPM, old school spinning disc, offering longer playtime, while RCA Victor followed with the 7-inch single, the 45 RPM. Vinyl dominated the music scene through the mid-20th century until cassette tapes began gaining popularity in the 1980s for their convenience and portability. That was a big thing.
And fair enough.
Fair
I mean,
enough,
you can't
yeah.
take a vinyl record
No.
with you everywhere you go. And just so you know, RPM, revolutions per minute.
Yeah. Yep.
For our listeners, people don't know this
They
stuff,
don't.
right?
Oh, I
They
thought
don't
you
know.
knew. Sorry, guys.
Oh, well, they don't know.
Yeah.
They just don't know.
How fast it spun. And
Yeah, and you change the speed for different sizes. Anyway, not portable at all. But cassette tapes, that's music on the move.
it
Introduced
is.
by Philips now, I said this earlier, in 1963, cassette tapes revolutionised personal listening with their compact design and record features. Like, you couldn't record on a vinyl.
No.
But you can on a tape. Their popularity soared with the release of the Sony Walkman. 1979 they put that
The
out, Chris.
Walkman, yeah.
It enabled private listening on the go. So you'd see, people now would see that in films and things. People with the headphones on, walking around, and they had a little Walkman. Those CDs overtook the cassette in the 1990s. But cassettes have been a niche thing amongst people. There's a revival. People still collect tapes. And indie artists often release their music on cassette tapes. They're still around, just not as popular.
I remember when you used to play it and the tape used to, get saggy. You have to sit there and wind them up and
Get a pencil.
and
jam
wind
it
them
in,
up.
turn it.
Yeah, for kids who don't know, that missed out. That was a big experience.
It was a terrible fucking experience.
It was,
Your tape got ruined, you pull it out,
It'd
and
be
it's all
ruined.
hanging out.
Yeah, get eaten by the tape player. Terrible.
And it would never sound the same again.
No, it wouldn't. You'd have this weird little distortion through
Wobbly.
that.
It'd be wobbly.
Through the tape. Next we had was compact disc.
Yeah.
The digital upgrade. So this was
My
moving on
favourite.
from cassettes.
Yeah.
So CDs arrived in 1982 through a Sony and Philips, offering clearer sound and greater durability than the analog formats. Well, again, I thought CDs were pretty good compared to cassettes, obviously. The 1984 launch of the Sony Discman, 1984, brought portability to CDs. So in the old days, CD players were big, massive, heavy things.
Yeah.
CD release, the Discman, massive. It was everywhere again too.
Like the Walkman.
But
But for CDs.
Well, that's my next point. So just as
Yeah.
the Walkman had for tapes, this is what the Discman did for CDs, basically.
Did you have a Discman when you were
I had a
kid, Chris?
Discman, yeah. I had a Discman.
Do you love how it would skip and they'd have the little anti-skip thing?
yeah.
And they'd have the little clip, but it
It didn't really
that
work.
never
Nah,
worked.
It never worked.
No.
So by the 1990s, CDs were the dominant music format.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely they were, because they were quite cheap and everywhere. In Australia, local manufacturing began in the mid-1980s with Distronics in Victoria,
Yep.
boosting availability. Retailers like Sanity. Remember Sanity?
Sanity. There's still a few Sanity stores around, I believe.
HMV, Brash's, JB Hi-Fi, who's obviously around, and Woody's Music helped fuel the CD boom.
Woody's Music is in Kingston, or Woodridge, Woody's
yeah.
in Woodridge in Queensland.
Still around?
No, it's gone, long since gone. But one of the guys from Savage Garden used to work there.
Is that right? Yeah.
Savage Garden's an Australian pop duo from the late 90s. And one of the guys, I don't know which one, used to work at Woody's. And Woody's was like a family-owned CD store when CDs were the deal.
The deal.
They were the deal.
The deal.
But they weren't for long because at the end the MP3 comes in, right? MP3s, music goes digital. The MP3 format was developed in the early 90s and made it possible to compress music into smaller files with minimal loss of quality. This enabled large digital libraries for easy sharing. Software like Winamp, I remember Winamp.
Winamp, yeah.
iTunes, still around. And devices like the iPod. Now it's iPhones and everything.
Yeah.
But transformed music listening, shifting the industry away from physical formats towards digital ones. It was the start of making your music something that you could store as a digital thing, and you didn't have to have a physical item.
Well, you didn't have to carry a Discman or a CD. It was just...
Yeah. It becomes simpler. I get that it's simpler, but we're fans of the physical stuff. But that's what MP3s they did for us, or did for everyone, really.
They did, yep. Which moved us into streaming. So this is really the new form. So streaming became the dominant form of music consumption in the 2000s, offering instant access to millions of songs without the need for downloads or physical media. Platforms like Pandora in 2000, Spotify 2008. I mean,
Pandora.
Everybody knows Spotify.
Well, I hope you do. You're listening to this on Spotify. I would like to think you are.
Apple Music, of course, had every song under the book there. Changed the landscape with curated playlist, smart recommendation, and subscription-based access, replacing previous models of ownership.
Digital stuff. I mean, look, you can have an iTunes library that has 1 million records on it.
Yeah.
You can't really own 1 million records. Where are you going to put them? So I can see a positive.
It's cheap, right? It's so cheap.
Yeah, I mean the subscriptions are what they are now, and you know, I don't hate the fact that it exists as that digital streaming. Like I'm not upset about that at all. But I personally like a physical copy of things. But I do like the access, right?
Oh, the access, yeah, that's a huge selling point.
And things that are long gone, the stuff that we loved and we still love.
Yeah,
you can get them and listen to them at any time, even if you don't have a copy at home for your CD player or your record player or your tape player. Like if you're going to listen to War of the Worlds, Jeff.
So weird you said
Jeff
that.
Wayne's War of the Worlds.
Dun, dun, dun.
The chances of anything coming from Mars are 1,000,000 to 1. They said.
That's again. Look it up, kids.
That was a massive vinyl. Like people's parents in our generation, they all had a copy of Jeff Wayne's War of the World, and then it became a CD and a tape, and it was like a double tape, so it was massive, or a double CD, and it was massive. Now you can go on Spotify. Just go look at Jeff Wayne's musical version of War of the Worlds.
You don't have the cool artwork in the album. That's the thing.
And that's it.
Thing,
that was one of the first albums where you had so much cool visual art. But there's a comeback for visual art and vinyls and things. There's a comeback.
There is.
Despite digital dominance, vinyl has been strongly revived in the early 2000s. Audiophiles, collectors, and artists embraced that rich sound. It does have a different sound to digital music.
It does, yeah, it does.
But the thing is, I think in recent vinyl releases, is they're using the digital master of an album and just pressing it to vinyl.
I see, yeah, right.
Which I think kind of defeats the purpose. But independent labels now, musicians, they like to release things on vinyl, and then you have a code to download the music, so you can have a digital version and the physical vinyl, which I quite like. Today, vinyl coexists with the digital formats in that way, proving that there's still a place for analog in the modern music world. I don't disagree with that statement. I think that's pretty true. To me, although digital music is so convenient, it's so cool to have all those streaming things, Chris, right? It's fantastic, but you can't beat a physical CD, a physical tape.
I put it in perspective of photos. It's like everything's digital, but to have photos, same thing, right? You want to have physical copies of something. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that physical is the best.
Yeah, physical is the best.
It's the best. And speaking of the best, It's time
Done.
for the top 10 countdown.